Let me give you a real-world example. If I want to say, stop the boats, I think that's an invasion, I want it stopped. Is that hate?
It's not hate, but it's actually putting, like I said, everyone as criminals.
They are criminals,
okay?
they're breaking the law.
No, they all are not.
They're
You cannot say that.
And hello everybody, welcome back to British Stand. Guys, we've got another debate reaction video for you today, and it is, of course, that Fahima Mahmood, as she gives her thoughts and opinions. She's getting a lot of airtime recently, mainly because it probably gets clicks, but yeah, she seems to be appearing on these debates quite a lot. And this time a row erupts, of course, with regard to various amounts of subjects, but mainly the migrant crisis, of course, and the Islamist on the panel is not happy with the terms that are being used to describe them, etc., etc. I'll leave it for you to watch. It is an interesting one, and as always, the people on the left do talk a load of nonsense. But as always, guys, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more content just like this. Let's have a watch of this.
Labour peer on the left of politics coming out while his party's in government and saying, we got a free speech problem, and the Labour Party is part of that problem.
I don't think that we have a free speech problem. I think a lot of people like to generalize, delete, and distort information. And I think that we have evolved as a nation where certain misinformation and misrepresentation can lead to incitement and hate, as we've seen with the riots. And it's really dangerous rhetoric that we are actually protecting. Freedom of speech is also not sort of like, you know, away from freedom of correcting that free speech. So it coincides.
So what do you mean by that? I mean,
so we can
free
criticize.
Speech with
we
limits.
can criticize. No, there's no such thing as free speech completely. There's always a grey line, and there's always, that's why we have the public order. We have, you know, certain laws in place, because there is a grey line where people do cross over, where it can lead to, like I said, incitement and hate. And it can lead to where minority groups and certain people will actually be under sort of like, you know, more sort of scrutiny or misrepresentation. It
sounds to me, though, as though you're using, this is what Lord Gladstone is perhaps suggesting, that you're using words like hate, misinformation, to perhaps delegitimize people who might be, for example, questioning the effects of mass migration on Britain, or might be questioning the collapse of our borders.
No, you can definitely question whatever you need to question. But when you are using certain propaganda and rhetoric and also demonizing entire communities for minority or certain...
What propaganda and what rhetoric? I really want to know what propaganda and what rhetoric.
Sort of like limitations with certain groups of people within that.
Give me an example.
For example, when we talk about migration, when we talk about the boats, when we talk about people coming in, it's like as if to say that it's all immigrants. I just heard even earlier in one of the shows, it's like, oh, are we sort of impolite now in Britain because of migrants? I mean, is that something that we need to talk about?
So we shouldn't be allowed to say that?
It's not about not allowed to say that. It's just, it's putting everyone under one, you know, under one stroke, brushing everyone under one place if you are of a minority background. That's what it is.
I think the crucial difference here is, you know, you can say you shouldn't say that, not you can't say that. I mean, we've seen a rise in non-crime hate incidents, you know, old grannies getting the roses at the knock on the door, obviously Alison Pearson, that the Telegraph journalist, having the police at her door just because of a tweet that she posted about the Gaza protests. And I think, you know, that it does sort of have echoes of Orwell's thought police, which I think is right to be concerned about. With the Labour Party and immigration, I mean, I think they've realised now that actually it is such an important issue that that you actually can't be worried about being labelled a racist by talking about immigration. I mean, I'd argue there's almost too much speech from the Labour front on the small boats at the moment, not enough action. I mean, not a lot of cracking down. So I think, to be honest, that, listen, the pendulum is sort of swinging against this idea that you can't say things in case you offend someone. I think in part that's thanks to Trump coming in to the White House the second term. That's sort of come across.
Supreme Court ruling, for example.
Exactly. And I think at the moment the only party that has a clean slate on this issue is obviously Reform, which is why they're doing so well in the polls, because you got Starmer, not being able to say what a woman is like 10 times, etc. So. That's why they're doing well. So,
non-crime hate incidents as an example. Ellie's saying there's a bit of a problem there in that, you can have 250,000 people being given one of these non-crime hate incidents. Why don't we scrap those? That's an easy way to get back to the tradition of individual liberty and free speech on these islands. It's something that should go. In fact, we've got laws from the 1980s that basically are there to protect us against racial discrimination. So why don't we scrap all hate laws from, let's say, 1997 onwards? Why do we need these attempts to control the public debate, to censor people who are trying to say entirely legitimate things like, let's stop the boats?
Are they legitimate, though? At the end of the day, I feel that when we are talking about certain things, we are definitely raising issues, but again, we are also raising sort of this political correctness of how we should and shouldn't speak, when actually it's about talking in constructive dialogue.
Okay,
it's all about
so on that,
hate.
so we can only talk about things if
there's no such thing as only and only
perceive
can't.
it as constructive dialogue. Let me give you a real-world example. If I want to say, stop the boats, I think that's an invasion, I want it stopped. Is that hate?
It's not hate, but it's actually putting, like I said, everyone as criminals.
They are criminals,
okay?
they're breaking the law.
No, they all are not.
They're
You
breaking
cannot
the law.
say that.
They're breaking the law.
You cannot say that.
They are literally breaking the law.
No, but at the end of the day, you cannot say that.
They're destroying their documents, they're arriving at an unauthorised port of entry. They are literally breaking the law.
I think even the government says that they are illegal migrants when they're crossing.
Well, apparently the Labour government now says they're irregular.
Exactly.
No,
they
but
are saying that.
But that's the new fashionable word for illegal. I guess, Rahima, what we're tapping into is this sense of frustration that people have, where you use the word misinformation, for example, after Southport. There was a lot of misinformation, as we've now discovered, from Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper, but misinformation is one of those words to me that is used to accuse people of not having the right information or the right opinions while not giving them the information they need to make a judgment about what's happening in the country. So the state is simultaneously not sharing information with people about
and then people go out and say whatever they want. And, people were targeted like that, looked like me, and taken to one side, so you cannot cross a certain way. These are the repercussions of saying certain things that actually incites hate. And it was actually really scary for someone like myself who's lived in this country for so many years.
Absolutely.
Who actually felt like
nobody,
that. So, at the end of the day, you have to, but that's the thing, unless you're sitting in my shoe and you can realise that. And it's the same for everyone at the end of the day. So it's not just about, we shouldn't be saying, no one ever says we shouldn't be saying, but say things which is correct. But what they do, what people mainly do, is they put everyone under one stroke.
Well,
and it's really, really dangerous.
Who's deciding what is and what is not correct? Hold that thought, because we also saw an exclusive...
Who is that? Who is that? Like, genuinely, who is she? Like, she just humiliated herself. Genuinely just humiliated herself and said that people that cross over on boats aren't criminals. Like, what? They're illegal migrants. They're coming over illegally. Of course, then you're a criminal. Like, it's so basic. I mean, that's so silly. But guys, as always, do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.